How the devil are we? I'm Matt. So we're looking at News Nation's segment on Jeffrey Epstein. It all just smacks as a conspiracy. So let's take a look at what News Nation say.
Let's start here. I kind of thought I'd be done with Epstein a long time ago. I am not done with Epstein. As it turns out, we are not done with Epstein because, you know, the whole digital fuss with that video that the DOJ said was proof that nothing to see here. Oh, yeah, there's nothing to see outside his cell. Turns out, maybe not so much, because digitally speaking, looks like there's stuff called metadata that matters.
He didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
Did he say that nowadays on YouTube? I'm not sure about the old monetization thing.
This.
I'm not monetized. Don't care.
Apparently it was screwed with. And that's not me talking, it's the science. It's the digital science. Tonight we're going to talk about drilling down on the digital science to find out what exactly is missing and what was stitched together in this video, and what does it tell us and what does it not tell us. And I'm also going back a little further to that hyoid bone in Jeffrey Epstein's neck, because now I'm starting to see it in a whole new light. I'm going to tell you all about that with 3 reasons tonight. 3 reasons why that may not have been a suicide.
Going to give us 2 there.
Also, today, something came to light that I didn't expect. Lest you think that he knew her, that would never happen to me. That's got to be something between those 2 people. He did not know her. He robbed her store and then decided to steal her. So I will tell you exactly what it is that she did, that the cops are saying, boy, oh boy, I hope everybody follows her lead if they find themselves in that boat. Let me start here. Who would have ever thought that Jeffrey Epstein, of all people, would bring together mortal enemies in the blood sport that we call politics?
I'd be surprised if he didn't, to be honest. Surely on both sides there's people who go, yeah, what he did was reprehensible, there's no defending it, and everyone should be united against what he stands for in terms of, you know, sex crimes and human trafficking. So I'd be really surprised if there weren't people on both sides basically coming together in standing against it. Some of it might be political point scoring.
With the still murky details of his own pathetic death back in 2019. It used to be, not that long ago actually, that the left and the right could always find common ground in America on things like international relations or, you know, the civil service or maybe even elections, but
it's weird. The only thing that they seem to have common ground on nowadays is UAP, UFOs. I know it's probably a minority, but there seems to be a growing collaboration between both parties at the moment to try to uncover the truth. I'm not sure how much of that is on the Epstein side, though.
Now, that common ground seems to be how Epstein died and whether or not a rich and well-connected pedophile sex trafficker really did hang himself in his jail cell.
There's only a couple of options, really. There's 1, he killed himself, and everyone loves a good conspiracy. 2, he didn't kill himself. He was unalived, the term that YouTube probably likes nowadays. He was unalived by people who were scared of what he knew and didn't want him speaking out. For me, option 3 is also something that no one's really speaking about. He actually didn't die. He was smuggled out of prison, and the report of his death was faked, and it was just basically a cadaver. And they got basically the coroner and whoever needed to be involved to say he's dead.
3 successive administrations have said that's exactly what happened.
Which is why I mean, 2 reasons why Maxwell might be staying really quiet. 1, she's scared because he was killed, and then it's a message to say, you keep your mouth shut, otherwise, you know, you'll be next. We can get to anyone anywhere. Or 2, he's basically had an insurance policy that said yes, if you smuggle me out of prison, I'll keep everyone's secrets as long as she's kept safe as well.
But still, there are legions of people on both sides of the aisle who believe that Epstein was strangled inside that jail cell to shut him up and to keep him from releasing big names, big important people who may have been a part of his sick tendency to surround himself with young girls and then pass them around to his friends for sex after he himself had had them for sex. And when I say legions of people, I mean more and more people than ever before seem to be convinced that Epstein was murdered, not that he took his own life. Especially because of the way the current administration has been making the case that Epstein killed himself. Case closed, nothing to see here. And frankly, I am more than happy to leave the politics to any other show that wants to cover it, because I myself am here for the mystery. This is a hell of a true crime mystery on our hands. And tonight we've uncovered 3 big reasons to suspect that Epstein's sudden and untimely end may not exactly have been his idea. The first is what a former inmate told us about that same jail cell, right? At the Metropolitan Correctional Center, because that inmate himself was in that cell, the same cell. Michael Francis was a capo for the Colombo crime family back in the 1980s, and he did time in the very same cell where Jeffrey Epstein was later housed. He said on this show, there is no way that Epstein could have done what the authorities claim he did, killed himself.
Right, first things first, it's good to hear testimony from someone who's actually done time in prison, especially in the same cell. But look at the video on the right-hand side here. 2019. Why does it look like it was filmed in the late 90s? Why can't they get CCTV these days to just look like 4K video?
I did 8 years in prison, and I haven't experienced cameras being broken in the perfect storm of
Get bling around his neck. Jesus.
correctional officers not walking those.
Has he got a YouTube channel? Is that what's gold give you? Is that 1 million subscribers or something?
They walk in and they look in on you all the time. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's embarrassing to go to the toilet because they're walking past you and looking in the cell constantly. So I've said this from day one. I do not believe it was suicide. I can't talk about what happened to him, but I don't believe it was a suicide because you just couldn't physically do it. It would be almost impossible.
I don't think it was suicide. I'm still on the fence of whether he's actually dead.
A second reason for suspicion about the whole suicide theory comes from this, what you're looking at. Not me, other side. The digital forensics from that newly released surveillance video outside of Epstein's jail cell. It was supposed to prove once and for all that nobody went in or out of Epstein's cell on his last night alive. But some new forensic analysis shows that the video was not raw video, as the DOJ insists it was, but that it was instead edited video. Very different, and may in fact have been manipulated. So-called metadata, right? It shows all that footage that the feds made public for the first time last week was created at 4:48 p.m. on May 23rd of this year, and that it was last modified at 8:16 p.m., very same day. The user who created the video file and made the changes.
It's not unusual. Not unusual. It's not unusual though. It's like making a YouTube video. You basically record it in OBS, for instance. It gives you the MKV and MP4 file. You upload the MP4 file to Premiere Pro, and then you cut segments out, and then you re-encode it to another MP4 file as a finished version. That is classed as a new video, but the original content might have been from years ago.
To the video file is listed as MJ Cole 1. MJ Cole 1. And what sort of changes did MJ Cole 1 make? The metadata shows that the final cut was actually 2 video clips. 2. Stitched together. And one of the original clips was almost 3 minutes longer than it is in the public version that the DOJ released.
See, that's weird. You only ever do that if you want to cut something out and then splice it together.
I'm joined now by the expert I always call when I have to use the word metadata. Jake Green is a digital forensics expert and the technical operations manager at Invista Forensics. He's among several private experts who've analyzed the Epstein video. Jake, thank God you are back on the show. There seems to be so much confusion. At first, when this video, raw video, was released, everybody went bananas saying, oh, a minute and 2 seconds was missing. And then the DOJ said, oh, no, it's always like that. It's just the way the camera resets. And suddenly, more experts have weighed in saying it's more like 3 minutes of video is kind of missing or at least not there or manipulated. Can you explain this in lay people's terms?
Really, it's difficult to. So when we think of raw data, that's something that since I've come into the private sector and started asking law enforcement and the government for raw data, oftentimes our first level of prosecutors do not know what raw data is. And most lay people don't. Raw data is something that is in a forensically reliable format, meaning that we can go in and review it and confirm that it matches the original. What has been produced in this case is what you could consider as work product. This is not the original. This is a child of the original. There's so many issues with this video. The minutes missing, the jumps. We can sometimes see a cursor move in the top right corner. There's so many pieces wrong with this video, and for the DOJ to release it, it's strange and it's kind of unnerving to know that this is the way they want to do this.
You would think that they've got pretty intelligent people at the DOJ, and as I say that, I'm probably thinking that's a big assumption, but it can only have been done on purpose, right? We need to release a clip, but make sure we edit it first in a way that's just going to raise a shitload of questions.
Sounds kind of dopey, actually, when you say what you said about the cursor being seen up on the top, because as we all know, surveillance cameras don't have cursors. So is there any way that I'm making a mountain out of a molehill? Is there any way that it's just normal to take a surveillance camera and then have a human download it and have a human send it off to the DOJ and then have the DOJ as humans send it out to us, and that's what we're really seeing?
So actually, I don't think the first part of what you said happened. I don't think that this was a download of.
So the actual file jumps 5 minutes. The file that the DOJ sent. Sorry, I mean, I thought the metadata showed that there was missing time between the two clips. Not that the actual clips themselves show a jump in time. Who they got working over there?
A surveillance system. I think this was what we call a screen capture. This is just a copy of a video of a video. So somebody went in with some type of software to actually record what the screen was showing. It's not in a reliable format. It may be reliable as to what was on the screen, but it cannot be confirmed to match what was originally recorded. So I think that's really what we're seeing here is just, it truly is the work product of FBI going in and attempting to change and alter and perhaps try to enhance the video, but it's clearly not the original.
That's very upsetting to hear the words altered. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, tried to explain it away when the first uproar, shook the internet, that there was a minute and 2 seconds, missing. And she seemed to be very clear that that's normal. Every night, the video system resets right before midnight, and that 1 minute and 2 is just normally gone. Did that sit well with you? Could that be legitimate? Is that part of this problem?
Well, I'm sorry, but if they're saying that's normal, then it's a failure of the system then.
Or is it really very little to do with the problem that we now see, this larger stitched together with 3 minutes somehow kind of not there?
It makes it stink even worse. There are computers that sometimes we do have to do scheduled restarts to ensure that we're running the correct software. We're running updates for our security. But for a network-attached video storage unit, like if this is what it truly came from, you wouldn't want it to shut down for at least a minute every night. And definitely don't want to do the same minute every night, especially if word gets out about that. Then you've got a complete minute every day of the year that you're not going to have video for.
All right, folks, if you were paying attention earlier, you know that I said there were 3 reasons to suspect that Jeffrey Epstein may have been murdered, but I only gave you 2. And the reason is that number 3 is a detail from Epstein's autopsy. His
Alleged autopsy.
injuries included fractures of the left and right thyroid cartilage at the front of the neck, as well as the left hyoid bone. Hyoid bone is a U-shaped bone that sits just under your jaw, and it serves as an anchor for your tongue. The experts say it is uncommon to see those types of fractures after a hanging. They're far more likely to be caused by a manual strangulation. Now, I'm not going to suggest for a moment that you mimic the difference between a hanging, which is sort of a vertical pressure, right, under your chin, as opposed to a
Don't know why you want to mimic that, to be honest, but go on.
lateral pressure, which is usually strangulation. Don't do it, because I have Dr. Michelle Dupree here. She's a former medical examiner, retired forensic pathologist, and a former law enforcement officer. All right, Doc, I've talked about this before, but it just sort of bears repeating, given that we're getting more forensic information about this very confusing scene at the MCC. The hyoid bone on Jeffrey Epstein was broken.
They said uncommon, but not impossible. As in, it's not common, but it does happen.
Not as though other hangings haven't produced a broken hyoid bone. It's just rare in this kind of hanging. Because as I understand it, he was hanging forward, meaning he used the sheet to tie it around his neck and then sort of tipped forward as opposed to vertically hanging. Did I explain that right? And if I did, does it sound like it's silly to think that a 66-year-old man has a broken hyoid bone from that kind of hanging?
Ashley, you're absolutely right. You did an excellent job. And we don't see the hyoid bone broken in most hangings. In fact, we don't see a lot of broken bones in hangings at all. And when we do, they're definitely not in that location. They're more at the C2 or C3 location. The hyoid bone is almost pathognomonic for manual strangulation. And only about, I did some research on this, maybe.
I'll just say, I don't really want to have to Google half the words that she's saying. I think she should be saying manopathic. See, I can't remember what she said, and that was about 3 seconds ago.
6% of cases is the hyoid bone ever broken in a hanging. And that's not the only thing. There are many, many other questions, in fact, more questions than answers. He was found, as I understand it, sitting. He was not even suspended. There's not enough force. He didn't drop down and hang himself. He was basically sitting when this happened, or sitting on the floor, or touching the floor, again, not suspended. There's not quite enough force to do the amount of damage that is described in the autopsy report. That's very disconcerting. I don't understand some of this. This raises an awful lot of questions.
By the way, that little noise is coming from the video clip. Not on my side. It's coming from News Nation's side.
Let me ask you
Sort of shit out News Nation.
this. I am certainly not an expert in your field, but I've done a bit of reading, kind of macabre stuff. But older people might actually
He was in decent shape, though, wasn't he?
break the hyoid bone in a way that younger people might not. Could that be an explanation for why Jeffrey Epstein's hyoid bone was broken, because he was 66?
I'm not saying that it's impossible, but usually when we think of someone older like that, we think of really old, maybe in their 80s, and that comes from calcification. It didn't appear, and I have not read the autopsy report, and I have not seen photos, so I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. But I don't think that sounds very likely. No, I wouldn't think that would be the cause of it.
That's the other thing. You probably haven't seen photos because they didn't take any, which I find, you know, in my business, there's always photos of a crime scene. There's always photos of a suspicious scene.
There's 2 reasons why. One, you'll show that he had bruises because there was a struggle as they were trying to kill him, or 2, because it's not him. He was smuggled out of prison.
There were no photos of Jeffrey Epstein in his cell. Is that protocol because it was a jail? Does that seem legitimate to you?
No, because it's a crime scene.
Or does that seem highly unusual?
Actually, that is highly unusual. Deaths in custody are something that we really don't like. I mean, we try to stick exactly by the book on those because those are very serious cases when there is a death in custody. Everything should be done by the book. There are always scene photographs, whether it's in the jail cell or whether it's out in the field. It doesn't matter. Photographs are taken at the scene to document how the victim was found. That can tell us so much information. And in this case, we have a lot of unanswered questions.
Boy, do we ever. I'm going to have you back. Dr. Michelle Dupree, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. Personally, what do I think? I think he was smuggled out of prison. I actually don't think he's dead. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do the usual, like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want. See you on the next one. You take care.